Moving to France sounds like a dream. But what happens after the honeymoon phase? Today, I'm talking with Christine, an American woman who left everything behind to follow her husband to Paris. New country, new language, new life. But behind the beautiful cafés and the Parisian charm, there is also doubt, loneliness, identity shifts, and a deep transformation. In this conversation, we go beyond the surface. We talk about what it really feels like to start over in France. When you don't speak the language fluently, when you miss home, and when you're trying to find yourself again. If you've ever felt lost, disconnected, or not quite yourself in French, this story is for you. Bonjour Christine,
Bonjour Lisa.
comment ça va?
Ça va bien? Et toi?
Très bien, merci. Thank you for being here today for my first episode with a student who lives in France.
I am honored. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell me what led you to move to France?
I moved to France because my husband got a job here and it was not my first choice. And to be honest, up until maybe 3 months before I moved, that was when I decided, like, okay, I'll go with him. Because I had the option to stay in the US and I've lived in the US all my life. So this is actually my first time ever living overseas.
Hmm. Et how did you feel when you made that decision? Were you like excited, scared?
I was terrified. I was scared because I'm such a homebody. I've lived in Virginia. I'm 38 now and I've lived there all my life. And so the idea to move across the country for the first time, leaving behind, all the routes and the places that I knew, my friends, my family who lived just like 10 minutes down the street, back home. It was terrifying. And there's a part of me that knew, though, from enough experience that when I put myself in situations and experiences that are seemingly scary at first, like there's always a reward on the other end. And I didn't go into it thinking like, oh, I'll be rewarded for this if I try something hard. But I just knew that sometimes that growth edge is what kind of catapults into new experiences that I couldn't even think of. And very clearly, that's proven to be true.
Hmm. You've never thought of moving abroad before?
No, and I went to college close by to home. I lived on campus my first year and then I moved back home and finished my undergrad that way. And then I taught in the same area, same county. I know a lot of my friends studied abroad and, did semesters or did gap years. And I don't know, I was too afraid to take that leap until I kind of was thrust into it.
Yeah, I think the most difficult is to take the first step, to buy the plane tickets. You know what I mean? Even if you're scared, you do it and then you don't have option to go.
And I realized for me, I was thinking too far ahead. I was thinking like too many what ifs of what could go wrong, what would happen, how will I figure this out? When really, like you described, it's that first step. Like take step one, then step two. Don't think about step 85 yet. Because by the time you take one and two, the rest will kind of start to fall in line. And then 85 will probably be not exactly, but very different from the step 85 that you thought it was before you even got there. So
Mm.
I learned that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. When you arrived in France, what was the biggest challenge you faced?
Where to begin? I lived in a very suburban area, so for me, the cityscape was the hardest part. The sounds, the noises, the energy, the pacing was also challenging to acclimate to, on top of language, not knowing anyone, to kind of ask questions, not knowing where to find things. Because typically for me, my comfort is like, okay, I know how to get from this place to that place. And then you figure things out around it. But to start completely fresh, clean slate, it was like, I don't, it was easier to try to stay in my apartment and order in than try to go out. And so again, it was just like pushing myself in just the smallest ways. But yeah, I would say the environment was probably the biggest adjustment for me, more than language actually, because I took French in high school. So I had a little bit kind of floating in the back of my brain, but then that next challenge was to kind of bring it back to the surface.
Mm. And did you relate a lot on your partner at the beginning? Because I know that he speaks French.
Yeah, so he had the opportunity to take French classes months before his assignment here. And I think he took French in high school and some in college as well. So he's like, he doesn't have to think twice. So for me, it was like, oh, suddenly my partner is my only friend and like the one person that I could rely on, that I felt that I could rely on when we went out to eat, when we bought things. Like I just was like, you take the lead.
What surprised you the most when you arrived in France? Because I guess you make an idea before you come to France, like of what is France and what is Paris in your case. How are the people? What's life here? Um, is there something that surprised you and you said, "Oh, I didn't expect that"?
I had never been to Paris before moving here, so that was also a huge leap. I'd been to Bordeaux and a couple other French cities just to visit. But Paris is, we all know, Paris is its own little special place. Surprise in a good way. I don't know if this is a surprise. Maybe this is a given. The food here is incredible. And just the the appreciation for the food and the appreciation for the arts and living, I think was a very pleasant surprise for me against the hustle and bustle of city. So surprise in like a positive and maybe a more challenging way at the same time. So for example, I love that meals here can take 2 hours and no one bats an eyelash. Like that's normal. Almost encouraged because there's no wait staff coming to your table asking how things are going. If you need stuff, like they just kind of let you do your thing. So you truly get to immerse yourself in that experience and that time to enjoy and appreciate the food. But then in the US, it's like the complete opposite. And so making that switch felt good, but then it also felt weird, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. When you go in restaurants, most of the time you have to ask for the check.
Yes.
L'addition, s'il vous plaît. Because it depends where, mais in a lot of places, they will not come until you ask for the check.
No, yeah. I just yeah, and like you get to enjoy your meal, no one bothers you. It's on you to ask for what you need. Um, and to not take things personally. That's a whole nother, surprising thing I've learned too.
Oui.
Because everyone's like, oh, Parisians are mean and they I have not felt that. In my experience, I have not felt that to the point where I felt like hiding. It's no different than mean in the US. I don't know. My experience. But that may be just the places that I've attracted to or been to.
Do you think it's because you've tried to speak French a bit, like saying bonjour, merci, au
Yeah,
revoir?
those are my like non-negotiables. If all else fails, always bonjour, always merci, always s'il vous plaît, bonjour. Like that's the book. Those are the bookends to the experience, to the conversation. Whatever happens in between, I kind of give myself grace for. This could go really well, and this could totally flop. And I've had the range of experiences of some conversations, I've messaged you and be like, oh my gosh, I survived the pharmacy. And then other days, the guy at the boulangerie corrected me on my pronunciation of for like un croissant. And so I felt it all. And so I prepare myself to the best of my ability, and then just kind of trust that I try my best. And I don't know if this is just unique to Paris too. People, if they see you try, they will try with you. And then there are many times where I've got to the point where my vocabulary in French runs out. And then I just have to say, like, je prends un cours de français. Like, I'm still learning French. And I phrase it that way because it's not, I can't speak French. It's, I'm still learning. And so I think it gives the other person perspective of like, okay, she's not perfect, but she's trying. And if they do switch into English, sometimes I just go with it. Not because I give up, but because for the sake of the transaction, if I see they're busy, and just for the sake of connecting, sometimes it's a little faster. And then it also happens where if they switch to English and then we kind of have this exchange of, the other person says like, oh, my English is not great. I'm like, no, I just understood everything you said. There's this common understanding of like, they're trying, I'm trying, it's okay. The transaction was made, I bought what I needed to. Thank you. Have a great day. Yeah.
Mm.
Just try.
And also, I feel like a lot of people feel uncomfortable when the French correct the pronunciation or
Mm.
corrects a word, a vocab, or grammar. And I think most of the time they do it like in a nice way. It just, I'm letting you know this is how we say it.
Yes.
Mais, yeah, to not take things personally is very important when you move abroad. Because in general, it's not against you, even though sometimes we feel like it is. But I think it's a lot to do with ourselves. Like we feel sometimes ashamed or we judge ourselves a lot. And actually, people in France are not judging you that much. Some maybe, most of them, they just want to help you and be nice,
Exactly. And if they do judge, I've learned like that's not my responsibility. Like I'm not responsible for what they think of me. I am responsible for me. How I react to that experience is what I have the capacity for. Like I'm already juggling the language, I'm already juggling the grammar, navigating the city. I don't have the capacity to allow someone else's judgment of me into my space. And I will also say, what you described, taking it personally, it doesn't happen overnight, right? It's almost like you need enough fails almost to like build that muscle. And then you kind of get stronger that when sometimes the more challenging experiences hit, they don't knock you down for as long. Um, and you build on those. And I've learned too, sometimes people correct me for my help. Like they don't say like, I'm going to teach you French. Like it's just a quick like change. And sometimes it's just genuinely they're repeating it back because maybe my accent wasn't clear. Like I've considered that as a possibility too, whether it's true or not. It just helps me move on through whatever that, interaction was.
Ouais, exactement. Uh, was there was there a moment where you said, what am I doing here?"
If I had $1 for every time, yes, €1 for every time. Um, in the first, like, I would say maybe 6 months, I made a promise to myself to not go running home so quick. Because I was lucky to have that option that if I wanted to fly back home, I could. But I was like, nope, I'm going to stay because the less time I go back and forth, the sooner I can acclimate. And there were times when I would I would literally just cry in my apartment because I just didn't know, and I was just over threshold and over faced with so much new and change that I had to allow myself to have those moments of just like, okay, you don't have to leave the apartment today. Like what am I doing here? Like the sky is blue, but I feel like totally horrible because I don't know what's going on. We came right when the Olympics were starting to, and so then it was also against this feeling of, is this really Paris? Like, is it always like this? And so it got to a point where it's like, I just have to let go. I just have to let go and let be and just let things unfold. And I know that's a huge trust piece, but I realized the more I gripped on and tried to control my experience when I got here, the harder it was to actually get used to what the city had to offer.
Hmm.
But
That's
there were
so
definitely days
interesting.
when I was just like, why did I do this to myself? For sure. And then there are days now where I feel like, no, I have to go home in like a year. And like now the challenge is not just, did I make, a choice that I regret, or, like, what am I thinking? But now it's just like, how do I do all the things before this chapter closes? There's a shift. That shift does happen as you, yeah, get into it. And for those who move here and get to stay indefinitely, like, take advantage. Yeah. There's so much to offer. I've started to see.
Maybe, some days we just don't want to go out, or we don't have the energy. And because you live in France, you're like, okay, I have to go out. I have to do a lot of things. And it's like if you stay at home, it's like you feel some kind of guilt, like, no, I should be out. And yeah, of course, for your mental health, this is not the best, to feel that guilt, but also to remember that we're just humans and we also have cycles and moments where we will feel with a lot of energy, and some others where we're just not capable of talking to somebody in French today. Um, but I get what you say about you have a limit of time in France, in Paris. So you're like, let's go. I'm on a rush.
It's definitely a balance for me of, of layers. So there's the timeline of being in France, but then you're right, like the timeline of the week itself and then the day, because I've had to learn very quickly that it's okay to stay in your apartment all day. It's okay to not leave your apartment, because you're right, like having those rest periods actually makes the experiences when you get back out there more meaningful, more fruitful. But if you're just, hobbling along, like if your cart has a broken wheel and you're just still trying to drive it, you're going to get there, but it's not going to feel as good when you just make the conscious choice to be like, okay, today is a rest day. Maybe I won't, entertain any speaking French, but I'll listen or watch. Like you find a different way to kind of still experience, but gives your system a chance to kind of settle. And then there are those days where you just completely like, no French, no nothing out there. This is me. I get to, rest and like true rest. I think I've had to incorporate into my schedule and my weekly, yeah, my weekly day-to-day life, because the plowing through does not work here.
Hmm. Well, it's like a plan to do nothing.
Yeah. And coming from a job where, because I was a music teacher and I taught elementary school, everything was planned, like the school day schedule was planned. You knew Monday through Friday you were teaching concerts, events, like everything was to the T. And so now to live in France where I'm not teaching so hard, and it's just, I had to recalibrate what my energy and my system was used to. And I think
Yeah.
the French lifestyle really made me flip that over as well.
The work balance in France is so different from the US. Yeah. I've never lived in the US, but I've seen a lot of documentaries, interviews, And wow, there is a huge difference. And it's true that in France we value a lot our free time. Mm, we don't see work as a purpose. I mean, of course, some people have careers and you can have a purpose with your work, but also all the free time out of work you get is very important. And that's also where there are so many grèves, strikes, is because people fight for that. Like they don't want to lose their freedom in a way. And that's why nowadays France is still nice to live in. How has it been living far from your family, your friends, and your doggies?
Oh, it was so challenging at the beginning. We have two dogs that we left behind to stay with my mom, just because we knew we would be returning to the US, after work is done. Um, and so typically it's like if I don't know people, at least I have my dogs. I would have my dogs as companions, but also there was a purpose in caring for them, right? But with that removed, and then friends removed, and family further away, it it made me appreciate them more now that they weren't in my everyday day to day. And then it also made me grieve a little bit of like, wow, I did not appreciate that to the level that I could have. And so I remember that when I do go back and visit, and I think it makes our relationship just a little more special. And I felt that the same with my mom and my brother. And when you live close to someone for so long, you get annoyed by small things, and you're just like, it's easy to kind of ignore or toss off things. But then when there's more space, I don't know, you start to talk to each other differently. You approach conflict differently. Um, there's a greater appreciation, for the relationship you have. And I think it's given all of us a chance to be more independent. Coming from like a Vietnamese American background, like, family is very important. We're all together all the time. And now it's like, okay, mom's going to get to figure out, how to do things, and I will get to figure out how to do things and not have to like run to her house to get help. Or actually, I do miss though running to her house to get food. I do miss that part, the Vietnamese food. Mom's cooking, I have such a greater appreciation for now that I can't just drive to her home and have some. Yeah.
Now you go to the restaurants, Vietnamese restaurants.
And so then that has also opened up opportunity for me to connect with, French Vietnamese people. And then, the food is not the same, but then I get a different connection. So there's always, I don't know if silver lining is the correct, you know, label for it, but there's always something positive to come out of change.
And it must have been also a big change for your mom and for your brother. Like, as you said, you were living 10 minutes from their home, so you would see each other very often, I guess.
Yeah. And
Um,
a lot of things had to shift. Like I moved my piano back to her house. My dogs are at her house, and just things like, helping each other take care of cars and everyday groceries. With me removed, it shifted the balance of the household, and it was uncomfortable, I think, for everyone at first, but we've all found a new rhythm to it, and I think it's healthy. Yeah, it's a healthy change. And as for friends, that's been an interesting experience for me. Some friends, when I left July of 2024, they stayed. They haven't really talked to me since then. And some friends have made an effort with me, right? Because it's not just a one-way street. Together, we've kept up, in contact. Some friends, when I go back home, will make an effort to see me, will connect. Uh, it's totally shifted, and you kind of see who like sticks around and who was closer and who was just kind of there because it was convenient. And it's no shade on, friendships. You kind of start to understand like there's just seasons and times where people come in to your life for whatever reason, and then you let them go. And you trust that that connection will come back if it's meant to be. And then I've discovered now with some of those friendships that may have quietly closed, I've had room for new friendships here to to come in, and that's been really cool to experience.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, to going out a bit of this circle that you've always had. Um, you learn a lot of things about people and about you. Donc, it's very interesting.
And it's just like the natural context of it. Like there's just some friendships that can't fit into the mold and the setting of Christine in Paris. You know, it was too different on how we interacted and connected in the context of the US. Likewise, like I feel like there are some friends when I leave France that will stay in this, you know, in this experience because it's almost like too out of the way to recreate and to hold on to later. So in friendships, I really had to learn of just appreciating it for what it is in the present moment and not get too caught up on will it be forever or not. Even just moving, you discover like things change.
Before teaching French, I was working in tourism and I would do, we call it les saisons in French. Donc basically I would go on the winter in the ski resort and in summer on a campsite or whatever. Et there you're like for months living with your colleagues. Donc you're like 24 hours with them. And you create really deep friendships. And when you leave, you're like so sad to leave them. It's like your best friends. And at the end, you never see them again. You talk sometimes through WhatsApp, but it's never the same. And so, yeah, it's like the experience belongs to this moment, like the friendship belongs to this moment, this experience, and not that much to now. I wish it was different in a way, but you can't do anything about it, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And you think about you know the person that you connect with too. Like you want them to move on and experience to what you have had the opportunity to do as well. So what I mean by that is like, you know, you are with them for that season, but you don't want them to be forever stuck, like reminiscing, like, oh, that time that I was friends with Lisa. Like, you don't want them to loop in that forever. You want to set them free too, because you've seen that, like, when you also move on and learn and you're set free from that, I don't know, it just opens up so many doors and it gives me a greater appreciation, like you described, for just that moment. And then it also shows me, you know, the day to day out here to not take for granted, like to approach that interaction like if I'm talking, I could be talking to you for the last time. I wouldn't know that, right? We don't know that. And so whether it's the person I'm buying, you know, baguette from or I'm going to the butcher, it doesn't matter. Like you appreciate with the same reverence of just like, okay, I'm going to show up as the best as I can for this person because I may not ever see them. And that's the gift that you have and the gift that you give.
Talking about cultural aspects in France, was there something that frustrated you, but now it makes sense?
That now makes sense.
Or something that frustrated you and still frustrates you? For me, for example, in Argentina, I have an Argentinian partner. We lived in Argentina for a year, and what frustrated me a lot was they were always late. They
Mhm.
don't leave with a specific time, while in France, if we say 2 p.m., it's 2 p.m. Not 4.
That's a big leap though.
Yes, but that's how they live there. And for me, it was so frustrating. But then I understood by talking with them, it's just they live the present moment. They don't live with the clock. For me, it's crazy. I cannot do it. So nowadays I understand it. It's like it's a beautiful way of living too, because they live the moment, the present moment, and they just enjoy life, enjoy being with others. And they're not looking at the time to see, oh, when do I have to leave? I still can't accept to live that way, but I understand it.
That's fair. Okay, I think the ones that have come to mind, and it's a range of challenge. The first one that came to mind, dinner reservations. Coming from a suburban neighborhood, you just kind of get a feel for the peak hours of dining and you work around them. Also in the US, it's not uncommon to eat dinner at 6. Early bird special for like seniors is like 5:30. Yeah, there's because they're open continuously. Whereas here it's like, what do you mean the restaurant is closed between 2 and 7, right? Like, what do you mean the earliest I can get a reservation is 7 or 7:30? And even when you step into the restaurant, you're very clearly like not French.
You're the first one.
French roll in around 8, 8:30, 9. So it wasn't a bad thing for us, I guess. It was a huge adjustment of eating later and then kind of shifting the speed of our day to day and also shifting our like our daily routine, our timetables, starting work a little later, eating work a little, eating lunch a little later, taking more time for lunch, and then making a reservation because it's the city, and then also being okay with sitting at a restaurant till 10 p.m. So
Oh,
that was
oui.
that was an adjustment for sure, but not a hard one to make. Uh, the packages and the delivery, that I think I've ordered less things living in France sheerly because I don't want to deal with delivery. And I know Amazon is available here, but it's not the same as US Amazon where it's just like 2-day shipping or even one. Or if you order within a certain number of hours, it'll come to your doorstep by 8 p.m. You're like, that's amazing. I'll do it. Whereas here it's like, do I really need this? The headache of either it making it into my mailbox or meeting the delivery person, having to speak French, answer the phone. Like, do I really need this? I've had to make that choice. And then maybe it's just city living. It doesn't always get delivered to your doorstep, right? Like in a townhouse, the Amazon delivery person just drops it off on your front step. They take a picture proving that it got there and then they go on their way. Whereas here, sometimes, they have to be able to get into the apartment building, whether or not they make it up to your front door or they put it in your mailbox, or sometimes you choose like what's the word? It's like not a delivery point.
Oui, point relais.
Okay, yeah, like you have to pick it up elsewhere. And there have been more times than not that my husband has picked a relay point and they're like, "Oh, just kidding. We rerouted it and picked a different one." And I don't know if this is just our luck with it or maybe in Paris, but he'll intentionally choose a relay point that's, close by the home or on the way
Oui.
home from work. And they're like, "No, we just switched it across town." I'm like, "Oh, thank you."
That's interesting. Yeah, in where I was living in France, in Bretagne, it never happened. So I don't know if it's only in Paris or only you had bad luck, je sais pas.
I remember now getting furniture delivered. When it's the bigger packages that you can't just leave in a mailbox or a relay point, the coordination of that was tough. Language-wise, availability-wise, just simply because you're living in an apartment and not a house with a driveway that a car can just pull up into and drop off your things. For the most part, I would say the delivery adjustments have been quite a hurdle. Paperwork, I know that's a common one. The steps and the paperwork and the time it takes. It's a little slower moving.
Oh, it feels like something you need to push or to call or because you don't have any answers. And
Yes, and if you get one missing thing or you write something wrong, then it's like, oh, back to the beginning.
très perfectionniste. I would like to talk about the artist part because you're an artist
Yes.
and Paris gets so many different types of arts and so many artists also. Um, how was living in Paris influence your creativity?
It's like it's an immersion. Uh, I am I just feel so lucky to get to be here because the minute I step outside the door, I feel the shift. Like the energy from inside the apartment stepping out onto the sidewalk, like immediately you're like you can feel it. So on that level, it's already there. I think there's a great appreciation for architecture, right? I mean, Paris, it has its charm, and I think suburban Virginia, you just can't compare. And the pictures take themselves here. So on many levels, on the photography level, you just hold up your camera and it's there. The greenery, finding the parks, the natural beauty within the city, has its charm as well. I find that there's just endless opportunity to experience and to learn more. As in, there are museums that are always, there's so many museums, so many different exhibits just in rotation, available, free, paid. You can pick and choose. It's accessible. That's the word. It's accessible to so many people, so many different walks of life. Um, and on all different facets of art. So I like collage art. I'm a self-taught collage artist, and you know, pamphlets and even receipts sometimes, or like nature. Like I use that. It's all there to create my art based on what I see and experience. Um, I go to there's like open mic nights, there's collage exhibits. It's available, you just have to kind of look for it, and I think this is where Instagram works in my favor as well. um and then there's the dance part of it. You have your ballet, you have opera, and then you also have your hip hop and your K-pop and pole dance. And what a gift, right, to have so much variety in one place. And then the music side of it, coming from a classical music background, like the Philharmonie, like concerts that they line up, and there's opportunity in different ways to choose, how much do you want to spend? What kind of seat do you want to take? Um, I've had what is it, like musical artists from the US that come through Paris that I'm like, yeah, I get to see, all time low, but in the context of Paris. And it's just, it, it fills my cup. I love it so much. Like sometimes it seems cliche because it's like, oh, arts in Paris and romantic vibes, but like, no, it's so very real. It's so real. Like, the literary part of it too, I didn't mention that. Like, writing, sitting in a cafe, writing, it's so, you cannot recreate that in some of these American suburban cafes. Like, it's not the same. And I think it's just appreciating what's already there and seeing what's already there, and putting that together to create my experience and my reality. Um, I mean, I could go off on a whole nother conversation about that, because that in itself is the art as well.
Exact.
It's the living the art. So for me, when I moved here, my personal goal was to be living art. And fashion, duh, Paris fashion. If I'm not wearing something fashionable, there's endless amount of fashion on the street. People walking, like just a range of everyday typical Parisian fit. You're like, okay, I see what the vibe is here. And then Paris Fashion Week happens. You're like, oh, then there's the other range. And then you start to appreciate like just the character that people have and how they live, and you kind of just get a peek into like their personality based on what they choose, and it lights
Oui.
me up. It lights me up to be living art, because then my wardrobe starts to match how I live and how I present myself. And then the food that I choose to eat feeds into that. And then my appreciation for that food, also changes. Like getting to meet the people who sell at the market, you're like, oh, I'm going to eat every drop of this creme fraiche because I understand the work that it takes, to bring this to me as the customer. So I'm going on a tangent, I know, but it's just the artistry of living here, I think, has been such a gift.
Mm. C'est beau. It's beautiful. Did the city change the way you see yourself or your art?
1000%. I basically reinvented myself when I got here. I
Mm.
used an opportunity when I moved to, well, I had to throw away a lot of things. I had to donate a lot of things, and I had to get very clear about what would come with me, knowing that one, going from a townhouse to an apartment, I may not have space for all those sentimental things. um, and then also, like I described too, just leaving room for new stuff to come in. Like this shirt that I'm wearing right now, I never would have bought when I lived, back in Virginia, like what, 2 some years ago almost. Yeah. But it's a reinvention. And I think it's an understanding of this chapter. And it's not always easy, because you're like, some days you're like, I don't know who I am. It's this, it's like the liminal space is what they call it, where you're like, you're not who you were before. Like I'm certainly not the Christine who was a music teacher living in Virginia. But then I can't say fully like I'm Parisian Christine, because I'm not French. I didn't, I wasn't raised, and I wasn't raised and grown here. Um, so I think it's learning how to balance being in the in between while
Mm.
embracing at the same time that I'm allowed to be new and different and undetectable to some of the people back home. Like I feel like some of the friends that have disappeared is because they see the me now and they're like, I don't know her. And some days I'm like, I don't know her either, but we're figuring it out. And then the friends here that I've made, they see this Christine and they're like, wow, she's cool. I'm like, yeah, I know. But
Yeah, I'm
also,
cool.
they also get peeks into like the Christine that lived in Virginia. And they were like, wait, you were a teacher? Like, wait, you drove all the time? Like, wait, you moved here, and you left behind family? And it's like, yeah, all those things.
Ouais.
So it it gives me an appreciation for how far I've come. Some days when I'm like, oh, I haven't figured this out. Like, why can't I still remember how to ask for XYZ? Um, and then there are other days where I feel like, oh, I I've like shifted and changed so much, and it's cool. Like, so it's this balance of appreciation and grace, for who you've become, who you get to be at the
Mm.
same time.
And has your vision of life changed since you've moved?
Mm. I'm now leaning into very, I guess, the grief and death world. Like, that's where my passion has kind of shifted to. So the grief and the letting go part
Mm.
has been kind of the center point for what I'm experiencing. And often, people think grief is like the death of a person or the loss of a life, and that is true. But there's also grief like in small ways too. Um, the anticipatory grief of like, oh, I'm not going to get to live here indefinitely. The grief of like, oh, I went to this place and the food was really good and I came back a second time, but it wasn't the same. And so it's like the grief and just the ever changing
Ah,
landscape. So the grief of that too, of just like, oh,
of
change,
the little details.
the
Ouais.
little details.
And also the grief of the old you.
There are some days when I'm like, I want her back. Like I want parts of her back, but then I realize like she never left. Like she's still here. It's just like, how do I put all those pieces together? That was probably one of the hardest parts for me, thinking back to the other topics of just like change. I felt very fragmented when I got here because there was like the old me, the Virginia me, then there's like the new me that's trying to figure herself out, the artist me, the music me, the dancer me, the like death and grief me. And it's like, how do we allow all these parts to exist at the same time? And I don't have 100% the answer yet, but I'm giving myself grace to just to figure it out and allow them to take the lead when they need to. Moving here has really helped me figure out how to slow down. That's the biggest one. And I think French lifestyle has really helped me learn that, to slow down and to really appreciate those present moments, because clinging on and resisting any sort of change just makes everything that much harder. So, having experienced loss, both my dad passing and loss in the form of moving and leaving behind the life that I knew, the slowing down to appreciate, even if it's hard, like there's always a reason and there's always like an other side to it.
We're going to talk about your daily life. No, we're going to talk about what's daily life in Paris. So, what does a typical day looks like for you?
Mm. Well, I'm embracing the French lifestyle, so I'm not waking up at 6 or 7. At least for this chapter of my life, I'm allowing myself that opportunity to not start my day until 9-ish,
Ouais.
10.
You do the grasse matinée. You know the grasse matinée?
Oh, what does that mean?
It's literally fat morning,
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, 100% then, yes.
meaning that you get up or wake up later than what you used to.
Yeah, and I've also given myself the opportunity now to not wake up with an alarm, and it has totally shifted how I have energy for the rest of my day, actually. And then I build my day around ritual. So that morning time is so important to me. And this is what helped me assimilate to French, living in France. The non negotiables that I had living in the US, I brought over here because that kind of grounded me and helped me set me up for my day. It wasn't always coffee, but like a warm beverage, tea, water with lemon and honey, coffee if I wanted to, something to kind of anchor me in a sustenance regard first. And then it's like, what do I want to do for me? Is it stretching, meditation, reading, writing? The things that I do for me so that when I have to do those hard, not fun tasks later in the day, at least I set myself up with filling my cup, so to speak. And so those rituals ground, and even just getting natural light also helps. And if I can't get outside and onto the street, cracking a window, like in the morning, getting some sort of natural energetic movement is important to me. So movement, sustenance, I guess, could you say like spirituality is also part of it too? that starts my day. And then lunchtime, I've embraced the long lunch, which I love. Whether it's cooking for myself or going out, taking, lunch in a park is also really nice. This is something I've learned that in the US that I carried over, and I didn't realize I was doing it then. I started taking myself on dates, solo dates in the US, where I would like dress in whatever I felt good and booked myself a lunch or a dinner, and I would go eat at a restaurant by myself. And some of my friends thought that was the weirdest thing back home. They're like, "How could you do that? Like, don't you want to go with your husband?" I'm like, "I do, and there's time for that." And I realized like I was kind of training myself so that when I got here, I eat by myself all the time, and I love it. I love it so much. In fact, sometimes I scare myself that I love it too much because then my husband wants to have meals together, and I'm like, okay, but wait, there's like just a piece to eating by yourself. And sometimes, even more fun, it magnetizes experiences meeting other people that I never would have gotten back home. So I always leave room for that, like, what if like something cool happens? Um, and it's not every day, but eating alone, solo, it teaches you how to kind of sit with yourself. And that's part of the building the me in this chapter as well. And then my husband gets home from work. I typically, actually, I realized back in the US, we would grocery shop like at the start of the week to have enough food through the week. Whereas here, I have the opportunity to buy food daily or like every couple days because it's fresh and it's available. It's easy to access. Uh, So part of the daily routine I would either go out, to buy ingredients to cook or go out to buy meals and bring back when my husband gets back from work. Or sometimes like we're taking advantage of this chapter of life where I can say like, oh, I'll meet you at so and so restaurant, off line 6 or line 1 or whatever in the city, and we can just do that, which we couldn't back home. So I guess the general rhythm is the morning to myself, built in time for lunch, sustenance, getting outside, very important for me, spending time with my husband, whether it's over a meal, winding down after work. And then there are the days I build in my movement, whether it's, Pilates. So I guess that's part of my morning ritual. Like the Tuesday, Thursdays are the Pilates days. And then I have K-pop choreography dance. That's like Friday evenings. Um, and I had pole dance classes a little bit there too, but you can't do everything all at once.
And the Pilates, you do it in English and the K-pop in French, no?
Yes, both. So I started Pilates. I found a studio, English speaking studio, American owned. Um, and I started there because I'd never done Pilates before. And once I got a feel for, what the typical moves are and the flow of class, then I started to challenge myself to take classes in French. And now, actually, one of my favorite teachers there teaches in French. And so I love coming to her because I get her teaching style, but then I also get French practice. And
And
it's
now
fun.
Christine knows all the parts of the body in French.
It's fun to like apply those words when I hear them in real life in the wild. I'm like, oh, cuisse. Like that's chicken thigh, but also thighs in Pilates or genou or talon. Yeah,
Exact. You know, very specific words that
exactly.
I really don't know in English, you know.
Yes. And yes, and then dance class has been in French, and that's been fun because my teacher is Korean French, and so there isn't even the option to like get an English uh, translation. Thankfully, my classmates are strong English speakers too, so that helps if I ever need to check in. But I've gotten my lefts and rights down very well.
Hmm, j'adore. Big question.
Okay.
Is it easy or hard to make friends in France, Christine?
It's easier than I anticipated. And
Okay.
I don't know if everyone will agree with me on that, and that's okay. I think for me, what's worked really well is I've identified my hobbies and my passions, and I've found experiences to ex- to for me to do that, and then from there, that's where I've made most of my friends. So I think it's having that common interest. Most of my friends have come from dance class and Pilates class and French class. And it doesn't have to be, those mediums. I've met random like people as well. I've made friends also at the market because in routine. So it's the routine part. It's like it's the showing up part. So doing something I like, but also the what's the word? Is it the consistency, the commitment, to just showing up, building those connections. So once I discovered like, okay, I want to learn how to dance K-pop. I committed myself to classes. And then as I'm in class, everyone's there because they want to dance. So that's the common interest. And then while you do like it, you have your challenges because the moves are hard. You don't catch everything. But then you turn to the person next to you and you're like, wait, what was the move after that? And then they show you, or you have these kind of small connections. You start to kind of see who in class is open to connection, and you have a little exchange at the end. I've just kind of let go of the fear of like, will I look weird or be thought of weird, and just ask like, oh, like, do you have an Instagram? And we exchange that, or we exchange WhatsApp. Sometimes the setting of the class will also help to create connection. If there's like a WhatsApp group for class schedule or connections, communication, that kind of gives you an in as well. And then as you start to see familiar faces, people come back to the same classes, you you just ask like, do you want to grab a drink after class? Like, do you want to go to dinner after class? Um, and just being okay with rejection. Sometimes people just can't, and that's okay. But I've found it's been successful because you don't just like right out the gate. I mean, maybe for some people that works, like right out the gate, like, hey, you want to go to dinner? Um, but you start to kind of build those small interactions together.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, a useful French phrase would be tu veux aller boire un verre or tu veux aller boire un café.
Uh,
Like, do you want to go for a drink or for coffee?
yes.
Hmm.
To be fair, my my friends that I've made are more international
Ouais.
than French native. Now that I think about it, it's not a bad thing. Um, but
But you
I've
do have a French friend, no?
Yeah, I do. But when I think about in terms of like
And the amount
the
of.
amounts, yeah, most of my friends are more international than actual
Hmm.
French. And that's
Ouais.
okay, but it's just it takes time. And like
Ouais.
all the other experience, like it's a muscle to kind of build. The more you kind of try and ask and put yourself out there, the more will land.
And also, to make French friends is not that easy in a way that people already have their groups and their habits. They're really not focused on the other people or the outside.
Yes.
Um, and you need to find French people who really are interested in meeting new people. And of course, there are lots. But you will not be friends with all the French. That's
No.
a
No.
fact.
And I've come to accept that too. And it
Ouais.
takes the pressure off of like, why don't I have any friends? Like that's not an issue. Um, yeah, it's just finding that common interest is such a great starting point, because then you don't have to be like, what do you like to do? What do you like to do? Where do you come from? It's like, oh, we all like K-pop. Cool. That's a starting point. And then from there, we can have different conversations. Or if I met a friend at an art exhibit, and he is French native, actually.
Hmm.
We were just standing there looking at the art, and then he asked me a question in French. And that was so early on in my experience, I just had to be like, Je parle pas le français, like, sorry. And then he switched to English, and it was fine. But we were there because we appreciated the same art. And then from there, you start to, have a conversation and then have a coffee or you exchange Instagram. So the the beauty of that social media connection too is you get a peek into that person's life, not in a creepy way, but in terms of a connection, as in like, oh, I just saw you were at Versailles. Like, I haven't been there yet. Like what should I look for when I go there? Like, do you have any tips? Or someone goes to Giverny and you're like, what time of day should I go to Monet's place so that I can avoid the big tourist groups? Or like, you have these kind of ins, or you're like, oh my gosh, like, Lisa, your cat is so cute. Like, I kind of want to adopt a cat. Like, what do I need to know? And that's how you start to make the human real life connections.
Mm,
People like to share about their lives and what they're interested in when you're interested in.
exactement. I think like showing interest in the culture and in, yeah, the life they have. Like if you show interest, people will be really happy to help you or to explain to you. That's what I love about
Yes.
teaching.
Yeah.
And that's how you create deeper relationships. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, a super long, deep, like philosophical conversation. It could get there. But what just came to my mind too is like, I I had the opportunity to go snowboarding back in the winter, but I had no idea where the ski shops were around here, like how to get my snowboard waxed. And my friend who works at the vegetable and fruit stand at the market that I go to, I asked Paul, I was like, where do I take my snowboard? And like those simple things is how you build connections with people, like just the everyday hobbies, what they enjoy, and it's an appreciation for me to have like, Paul's lived in this city for years, so he grew up here, he knows where things are. So I'm tapping into his experience and wisdom, and he's happy to exchange that to help me back so that I can have a good experience. And like that at its root is like, that's what friendship and connection is, right? Like, and so again, it's going back to the gratitude of just like something as simple as asking the veggie and fruit vendor who I've seen every Wednesday to tell me how to get my snowboard wax. Like, to connect those tattoos, like, it's kind of silly, but also like, wow, that's kind of special.
If we talk about French, learning French, big topic.
Great.
How did you feel speaking French at the beginning?
Hmm. Like that. I felt like I had to really prepare. I felt I was nervous a lot.
Mm,
It felt a lot like what I remember before a piano recital. Like you're just like standing there in line, waiting your turn, and you're rehearsing over and over and over and over again. How do I say this? How do I say this? You're pulling up, I have on my phone, like, notes, like how to say something to try to anticipate. So the biggest word I would say is nervous or anxious. Um, to not be able to react and respond fast enough, and also uh, to look. I was afraid of looking stupid, to be
mm.
honest. Like, and it shouldn't matter because they were strangers, but yeah, it's like I want to be able to look and feel competent because I am a competent person, but when you're just so thrown out of your comfort zone, the nervousness just kind of kicks in. You're just like, oh no, maybe I don't need this cappuccino that bad.
Ah. Maybe I will avoid this stressful
I'll just
situation.
drink water from the water fountain. And even that, it's like un carafto, like the rehearsal. And sometimes I accidentally say un carafto, and I'm like, oh, un, and they're just like, ha ha ha, laugh it off. It gets to that point
Ouais.
where people laugh it off. But at the beginning, oh man, anxiety, sweating.
Oui. Oh oui, I feel you. Also, I think like when you just begin, you can't show who you are. Like you can't be yourself. And it's really can be very stressful and frustrating. And as you say, like you don't want people to think you're stupid or because you know that's you have so much more to say and so much more to show and to tell. And learning French to get to the point, like speaking French to get to the point that you are yourself takes time. And to accept that it's going to take time is difficult, je pense.
100%. Because there are times when I feel like I have so much more to say and to offer. Like I promise I'm not just this like airheaded sounding girl. Like if I show up to the florist, you know, and it's like, how can if it were a florist in the US, it'd be like, I love ranunculus. Like I love them in all colors. Like how can I shape a bouquet that brings out their shape and the variety like the best? Like I can't say that in French. The best I can do is ask the florist like how he's doing, you know, or say like j'aime le ranunculus. I don't know. See, I don't even
Oh,
know.
I don't even know how we call it. Je sais pas.
Yes. So I look like I just am like deer in the headlights, like la la la. And in fact, I had this irrational fear that I was seen as a tourist, which I know is not like
Mm.
a necessarily a totally negative thing, but I felt like I would be taken more seriously if I was seen as like someone more established living here. And I just had to let that go. Like, fine, whatever. I may look like a tourist, but at least I tried.
Mm. Also, I think it's not only in the language; it's a lot like in the posture, like
Mhm.
how confident you walk on the streets, for example. We can tell if you're a tourist or not.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Donc oui. What helped you start to speak more, even when you felt uncomfortable? Because with what you're saying, what you're telling us, you're scared and it's stressful, but you do it. You're doing a lot of things and you're putting yourself in the situations that a lot of people wouldn't. For example, to the piano store. You went to a piano store
Good.
to rent a piano. Enfin, it's a lot.
I prepare myself to the best of my ability. Um, and then I know it sounds simple to say, but I allow myself to just get it wrong. I just know that it's not going to be a perfect transaction. And so when I'm okay with that, it takes the pressure off of me. So, for example, going to the piano store, and that's one that I have plenty of English vocabulary for. I could talk your ear off when it comes to pianos and music, but in French, you would
Mm.
think I was a beginner until I sat down and played, and then you're like, "Oh, she knows what she's doing." Yes. um, you know, I looked up as many phrases and words, like common phrases and words that I could find and put that in my phone. You know, we worked together and kind of practiced saying some of those things, kind of finding ways to almost anticipate or imagine the progression of the conversation um, has helped a lot. Even just simply buying food or drink. Um, then there's always the
Yeah.
curveballs of they ask you something and you're just like, wait, that wasn't in my phone. How do I empty this? And sometimes it's just like a we. And you just laugh it off and you're like, wow, I don't know what just happened there, but it's fine. I got my drink.
But then you learn it. That's how, because it
That,
was.
and then retroactively, you go back, and I've had this conversation with you too. I'm like, the guy at the boulangerie just said blah blah blah, and I wasn't sure what that was. And then we break it down, and then the fun part too is like once that's been established and it's in my consciousness, it pops up in the wild, like pot, right? Le pot.
Potes, ouais.
See, like, and even my Pilates vocabulary will pop up in the wild, and I'm just like, oh, it's like once you become aware of it, I think it's like giving your chance to be aware of um, what you're experiencing, meaning like you you have those not so smooth interactions, but they stick because it was uncomfortable. But the opportunity there is instead of taking that moment of discomfort of like, "Ah, he told me my ass sounded weird," instead of ruminating on that part of like, oh, I felt so dumb, it's like, okay, well then what, how do I say it better? Like, how do I change the shape of my mouth? There are days, I'll just let you in on this. I will stand in the front of the mirror in the bathroom like, uh, uh, like I am like working and looking and like practicing just to kind of give myself repetition.
Mm.
And some days when I actually go out into the wild and unload it, it works, and other days it doesn't. And I'm just like, okay, it's fine.
But it works because you get a really good accent.
I think
Like
so.
since we've started together, I told you I was like, wow, your accent's very good.
Oh,
C'est
thank
très
you.
bien. Ouais.
It's the processing time that's a little behind,
Mm.
which
So
I've
your
had to
accent,
be
your
okay with.
pronunciation, I meant.
Yeah. The preparation and the allowing for whatever happened to happen is
Ouais.
kind of the equation that I've figured out.
Accepting that it will not be perfect.
Yeah.
Never.
And accepting that the other person on the other side that you're talking to is human too. And so
Mm.
they've probably experienced some level of, nervous anxiety as well. So they could understand. And if they don't, they don't.
What can you do?
Yeah.
Exactement. Talking about the confidence in speaking, was there a turning point where things started to shift for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Grammatically, it shifted for me when I started learning about eska and keska questions and like quand, qui, où, comment. That was kind of like the, oh, I just have to, I, I just have to word my sentences this way. Like, I think the sentence structure of those questions kind of switched to flip for me. Switch to flip, flip to switch. I can't, I can't speak French well, and clearly my English is going out the window too. The only hope for me now is Vietnamese. um, Grammatically, that was the turning point, and especially getting to passé composé and present, I felt like there was more available to me to share. Uh, in terms of in real life, this is going to sound weird, maybe. Coming back from the US after a visit,
Mm.
I thought, like going away and not practicing it every day would like set me back. But it weirdly allowed it to marinate. And then when I came back, I was like, oh, I still got it. I think it needed time to settle. So I guess that would be that it's kind of like a weird suggestion of just like, I don't know, sometimes you don't have to hammer it in every day. It goes back to the rest days, right? Like I had
It's
to
like sports.
settle a little bit. Yeah. And when I came back, it clicked of just like, oh, I still actually remember this. I mean, it was a little rocky getting back in, but it was this feeling of like, okay, I know more than I thought. because I think when you're in it every day, you only see it so close. And then stepping away, you get to zoom out and you get to come back. And in fact, when I have US friends or family visit and I have to be the translator, then it's like I I have to, like I don't have a choice, like because they're relying on me. And so to make it through those kind of interactions also kind of boosts confidence a little bit of like, oh, I got it. I can do this.
I can do this way.
And on the day-to-day level, I think having the boulangerie and the cafes and the markets that you visit often enough, you don't have to think twice about some of those phrases and you know how to anticipate the conversation track. And so I think that's where a lot of my confidence built first. Just the repetition of small stakes opportunities, right? Like, okay, if I said en baguette accidentally, not the end of the world, which is different than, maybe if you were trying to do like paperwork or buy something more big, a bigger deal. So yeah, the low stakes uh, experiences.
And again, it's not because you get the article feminine or masculine wrong that it's people will understand you anyway. And I think that's the priority. Then you can start to go in details when you start to get a better level. But the priority is making yourself understand, actually, because
Yeah,
you don't need more to survive.
exactly. And just allowing yourself, for me, to like slow down. I know because it's like when you're in line, there's like the anticipation and then there's people behind you. But once you get there, you're just like, you know what? I'm allowed to be here too. Like, I'm a paying customer. I can take up space. As long as I get what I need and they get paid the right amount, we're good.
What are you most proud of today that once felt impossible?
I can navigate the metro. I know that sounds so small, but from someone who had to drive everywhere, figuring out the metro, yes, I have the app, but by myself confidently, figuring out the bus schedule, the RER, like
It
that was a
looks
big deal.
impressive when you've never done it.
Yeah.
Even for a French, huh?
Is it? I don't know. I just feel like everyone
Yeah.
here is like, we don't think twice. But yeah, it was just like, making sure I had money on my card, getting on the right platform. I've gone on wrong platforms enough times. Having to go out and back in or switch sides, like it happens. But now I can like I can get to places where not I don't even have to pull up the app, be like, oh, it's the 1 to the 6, like things like that.
No, it's
Oh, it's off
comfortable.
the 8, yeah.
um, what do you wish you had done earlier in this journey?
I wish I could have just let go sooner. Meaning I was so restricting. Like I was grabbing on so tightly to like, I have to get everything right. I have to figure things out. That like it took me longer. You know when you grip onto something so hard, it takes long for your hands to kind of release. That's what happened for me, where I was like so scared and so like, oh, what if I get it wrong? I don't know. Like I'll just, hang out in the apartment. I'll just, find only American friends and start in English. It took a little longer to release that grip. And if I had just given myself a little more like, not going blindly, but just give myself, what if it does work out? Like
Oui.
being more okay with the unknown sooner, I would have probably opened more doors faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like putting myself into situations of signing up for classes. Like I would still love to take art classes. I haven't like a pottery class would be cool. Like just giving myself time to explore and find those opportunities sooner, I think would have, like I said, opened more doors. However, I also am a firm believer in like the timing of things. Because if I had pushed myself too hard into those, like I have to grab onto every experience, I may not have appreciated them in the way that I could have now. So
Ouais. En fait, it was part of the process.
yeah, I know
Mm.
it's not that hopeful maybe, but it's like you have to hold a little bit of both, of
Mm.
taking action when you feel it's, like, let's go, let's do this, but also giving yourself grace of like, maybe it's not the right time. And that's also part of becoming who I am here, of learning how to do that dance, where some days it's like, do I have the capacity to go and like open a conversation at the piano store today? Maybe not.
Mm.
And so just navigating your threshold for challenge, I think, is a big part of living somewhere new.
Et what would you say to a woman who just arrived in France and feels maybe overwhelmed, lost, asking herself a lot of questions?
I would tell someone who's new to France, um, blend. And what I mean by blend is both new and old. Take what's really worked for you, that you've loved, that keeps you grounded, bring that into the context as best as you can here. So you have something to kind of anchor to, so that it gives you the energy to navigate the newer, more challenging stuff. So for me, that was like the day-to-day life part, right? The ritual, the morning ritual, that part didn't change from Virginia. But then it set me up so I could explore the harder stuff. Inevitably, that will happen later. And then I would also say just time. Like, allow yourself time to decompress and settle. Not everything has to happen all at once. It won't. It would be too overwhelming. Meeting friends, nailing conversations, getting interactions, perfectly French. Like, there has to be room to breathe and to kind of let it run its course. Like you said, the process of it.
Mm.
And have those friends and those connections that have always been there for you. Like, keep those as your anchors too. Those days where you're like, oh my gosh, like I had such a hard time, like I went on the wrong metro, and like you have that friend who will hold space for you. Like, that's important. Or your partner, because they're like, Hunter experiences the same things I do, of just like, that conversation totally flops. I'm like, yeah, I know exactly how that feels.
Ouais.
So keeping some of those connections that you have built kind of helps settle into a new place. And then when you have the capacity for opening and welcoming new interactions, it could be as simple as your neighbor, or the cafe barista that you frequently see. You make room for the blend of old and new, I guess.
Mm.
Say, yeah.
Thank you for your advice, Christine.
I hope it helps. I don't go all over the place, but that also speaks to the nature of this experience. Like, it's all over the place. It's like a
Ouais.
watercolor piece where, you can drop the color onto the page, but it'll spread, and you don't know where it'll spread and in what way, but it eventually comes together into a piece. And so I think to approach it more of just more play, more whimsy. I've had to teach myself that and remind myself that every day, because from such a serious, classically trained background, like, get it right, make a list, everything has to be in order. The city's going to teach you, like, that's not how it always works.
That's a huge shift, yeah.
Yeah. And so
And
instead of,
especially in France, it doesn't happen always as you
yeah,
want it.
and instead of pushing against that, you're just like, okay, I see, I see what's happening here. Fine.
I see what the universe is telling me.
Yeah.
And my last question for you, do you feel like you belong in France now after 2 years, is it?
Almost, it'll be 2 years this summer,
Mm-hmm.
which is wild. I feel like I belong enough in that I know I never came here thinking I will be French. I didn't put that pressure on myself. But I also know in this context, I'm not fully American. Like, I can't live my American lifestyle here. There's no way I could just unplug that and that wouldn't work. And so I feel like I belong enough. And I feel like I belong more to myself than I've ever experienced before. Uh,
Mm.
I love that Paris and living in France has just given me that chance to open. And I know that sounds really cliche because it's like, oh, Emily in Paris, woman goes to France and like finds herself and maybe we'll write a book. Like, I know it's cliche, but it's real. Like, there's just something when you put yourself into a new experience, a new place, regardless of the language, like it unlocks something in you that you didn't know you had. And then to put that together with the you that you do know, it's an adventure in itself. So
Mm.
I feel like I belong more to me. I don't know if like I feel accepted enough by the people and the environment around me.
Okay.
But I also am conscious too of like there's no sense in forcing myself to become exactly like everyone else.
No, of course. I feel like also belonging means, well, in my French perspective, because I'm not, my mother tongue is not English. Mais belonging also is like feeling integrated, even though you still have your whole life was in another country, another culture, etc. Donc, of course, it's not about becoming French, mais yeah, feeling integrated, feeling good around French people, good around um, the culture. I think that's the most important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the like feeling aligned and being aligned in who you are so that regardless of the context you're in, like you're home. And then the bonus is just to interface with everyone else around you. Yeah, that's exactly, yeah, you make such a great point. That's exactly it.
Merci, Christine. That was amazing. I'm really grateful to have you, to have you as a student, to be there in your journey, like I just love when you send me WhatsApp with questions or telling me, oh, I did that and I did that and I'm going to do that. For me, it just to see that you really want to belong in a way, it's really rewarding and it's really nice to teach people like you.
Well, thank you. That means a lot because I mean, I love working with you and it's one of those I know social media can be tricky, but I found you through social media because there was just something about you're so down to earth and genuine. And so that's what magnetized me. And then, to get to learn with you and alongside you and from you, because you're living in a foreign country too, like that's what spoke to me, I think, the most. Because I've had experiences with teachers who don't know what it's like to experience what I'm experiencing. And so the relatability, I think, was what helps me feel like so comfortable working with you. And then just that real life connection, which again, I found living here, but also, through our classes, it's just been like, she gets it, And so
Mm,
that gives me more confidence to like, okay, I know that I can go out and try hard things and like share with Lisa and she won't judge me for it. Like she'll support me in it, and like help elevate the next experience that I have. And so like that's what I'm looking for, because yes, learning a language is one part of it, but you're right, the belonging and the lifestyle part. Like I think the language lands stronger in terms of like how you integrate it when you experience it, you know? And I've had French classes. When I first got here, I was taking French in a class setting, and it was just like books and worksheets and okay, everyone turn to chapter blah blah blah. And you're just like, that's that's not gonna help me when I have to go ask for cleaning supplies, like how to locate that in the store, you know? So moments like that, I let go of like just the buy the book part. And I think the way you put together, you know, your program and how you teach, it's so it's so natural to just into like take it down to the, you know, coffee shop after a class. Like I can apply it right then and there. And I can also reach out to you like, I'm in line and there are no croissants. Remember this conversation? I'm in line, there's no croissants left. How do I ask? How do I ask, like, will there be more? Or is it not okay to ask if there will be more? Like things like that. Yes.
Is it rude?
Like I just love the application. So
Yeah.
it's very real, and I appreciate you for just showing me that it doesn't have to always just be in a book.
Ouais. Grammar is important,
Oh yes, of
but
course.
it's not everything,
No.
especially when you live in France. Yeah. Well, merci Christine,
Thank you, Lisa, for having me.
et à bientôt.
À bientôt. Oh, salut.
Salut.
I'm getting it. I'm getting it.